What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Biblical Bees. I hope you guys had a great weekend, great week, all that good stuff. But we are back for another episode on a wonderful Monday. But yeah, so I hope you guys have been enjoying the last couple episodes that I've been posting. I hope you guys have been getting connected with the TikTok. Hope you guys have been enjoying those videos. And I'm always open to any suggestions or anything that you guys may want me to talk about or you guys may want to see. I'm very open to any ideas or anything like that you may have. But yeah, so today we are back in our teaching of Matthew. I did not forget about that. I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys a teaching from Matthew, and I think we are actually approaching our last teaching in Matthew. Actually, from what I seen, but yeah, this would be our last teaching in Matthew, and this is our teaching about money and possessions. So this is a good one to end off with, which is what I thought. This was a pretty good one to end off with. Um, but yeah, we are going to hop into it. And before I forget, we have to do our shout out, our first shout out of our episode. Which, if maybe this is your first episode, welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Savant. I am the person behind Biblical Bees. Thank you for joining. But we do, it's just me. I do a shout out in the beginning where I announce maybe a certain state or a certain country that has been listening and supporting me. And then I do another one at the end from one of my social media accounts. And yeah, it's just simple as that. So let's look. Our shout out for today's episode is going to be from the people that are listening all the way in Oregon. Shout out to you guys over there for listening. I appreciate you guys and your support for tuning in every week, listening. Truly, truly, truly appreciate it. So, like I said, shout out to the people in Oregon. Thank you for your support. But yeah, we are going to hop right into it. Like I said, we are going to be doing the teaching in Matthew's about money and possessions. So we are going to go to Matthew, and we are in chapter 6 still. We are in Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 34. So I'm going to read that, and per usual, I'm going to put the scriptures and the verses and everything in the description for you guys to be able to write down, keep along, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, chapter 6, verses 19 through 34. And it says, "Don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. Your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. No one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. That is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food, and your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you far more valuable to Him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing, yet Solomon in all his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. And if God cares so wonderfully For wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, he will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? So don't worry about these things, saying, what will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear? These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. So that was a lot. That was a lot of scriptures. That was a lot of information to take from that. When I was reading, I really like this teaching because it's something that I can be able to relate to. I like when I'm doing when I'm talking to you guys about certain things and I'm able to relate to them, because I feel like you guys can kind of be able to understand a little bit more, and of course also know a little bit more about me. That's kind of why when I saw that this was the last teaching, I was like, oh, this is a good one. But yeah, so of course I have when I was reading this last week or so, a couple days ago, I had jotted down, some, obviously, like my notes and everything from what I was hearing from when I was reading this. And I guess one of the main things that came to me was, when I read this, was that it's important for us to have faith and trust in God. That was kind of like my main idea that I kind of got from this. Is those were like the key parts, was having faith and trusting in God. Because in this teaching, Jesus is telling us, we can't serve God and be tied to money. And, I know we live in a crazy world with a lot of things going on. Inflation, gases cost a lot. Groceries are just going up every time we go to the store. So I know sometimes it can be stressful and it can be difficult, to maybe not worry, in those situations. But I feel like, especially as believers, those are the times where we go to our provider, and we just pray to God and just give him our worries. He doesn't want us to worry. He's telling us, not to worry. So I think during those times, it's just important that we just go to him and just pray to him, what it is we may need. And he will make a way to provide for us, however that may look. There has been times where, I have worried about certain things and I just took it to God and gave it to him, and he provided for me. Like I was telling you guys, I think it might have been 2 episodes ago, where I was telling you guys about my situation when I went to the dealership for my car. Maybe like a week or so before I went to my appointment, I was a little worried because, I knew I had to come out of pocket for something, because my warranty was up. And when I got there, I was just sitting in the chair, 10 or so minutes before the man came back, and I just prayed and just gave my worries to God, and he blessed me with me not having to pay for anything, and for me being able to get a rental car and not having to pay for anything, and having to get all these parts ordered for my car and not having to pay for anything. And just little situations like that is where we have to give our worries to him and allow him to be the provider that he is, which is why that is so important, and I feel like, especially with money, yeah, everyone, well, I'm not going to say everyone, but I feel like, obviously, a lot of people, we want to be successful people, we want to have good jobs, we want to make good money, and there's nothing wrong with that, there's nothing wrong with, wanting to make good money to, be able to have a stable income, to be able to support your family. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it gets to a point where we're idolizing that, where all we want to do is work, and get money, and not trusting God that he will provide for us no matter what, that's when it starts to become a problem. Because now we're putting money and our obsession with money over God, the one that provides to us the most than any job could give us. And so that's what we have to be careful about, because trust me, guys, I love to work. I love my job. I love making money, but it will never get to a point where I'm putting that over everything. It will never get put to a point where I am putting it over everything. No, yeah, money, it allows us to do certain things, buy clothes, buy food, different things like that. But At the end of the day, when we leave here, that money is only temporary for right now, versus the eternal life that we're going to have with Jesus. That is way more than the money that we're getting. So we have to be careful that we're not idolizing that, because there's more to life than just money. Yeah, we want to buy the newest Jordans that came out, or the newest headphones, the newest iPhones. I get it. I've been in these positions, but I've gotten to a point where I just can't worry anymore about certain things. I just can't, because the more that we idolize money and have this strong obsession with money and these different possessions and everything, that just shows our trust in God is not there, and that we don't have faith that He will provide. That is literally showing our trust in God is minimal, because we're trusting in our job that we're going to get all this money from working overtime and double shifts and all that, but we're not trusting in God, and He's the main one that's going to provide for us. We have to have faith that no matter the circumstances, God will always provide for us. Whether we're down to our last dollar, if we give our worries to God and pray to Him for what it is we need, He will provide for His children. He will provide for us. And, Jesus even tells us we can't worry about all these things in our everyday life, the clothes, the food, things to drink, all of that. And you guys are probably like, Savon, those are literally necessities. Those are things we need. Yes, it is, but God is going to provide it for us. He is going to provide those things. He's going to make sure we have those things. He's never going to leave us without. So, yeah, at the time, you might not have that certain Nike Tech or Nike sweatsuit, but you have that black hoodie in your closet that you can wear. You might not have, that seafood boil that you want, or you might not have those ribs in the deep freezer that you want to cook, but you have hot dogs in the fridge that you can eat. Why are we worrying about these things when we're worrying and we're setting our expectations high for these things that we need, but we're not thinking about the things that we already have. And I think that tends to be the problem. Because I used to do this. Oh my gosh, I used to do the same thing. Especially in high school. Having, obviously, I would go school shopping and get all these clothes and shoes. And I would have everything that I needed to have. The necessities. I made sure, my parents made sure, we had shoes, made sure we had clothes. But there was always that thought in the back of my mind, oh man, that Nike outfit. And it's like, why am I worrying about this when I need to be worrying about the things that I already have, that were already provided for me? Same with things to drink. God is going to always provide. He's going to always make sure that we're not left being thirsty. He's going to always make sure that we're fulfilled with all of these things. That way we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about, running to all these stores to get all this water and all this whatever. He's going to make sure that we already have it. And I liked when they talk about in the scriptures, how the animals in the world, they're not planning food. When it was talking about the birds, they're not planning food, but God provides for them and makes sure that they have the resources that they need to be able to eat, to be able to drink. The birds aren't slaving on the grill cooking food. God is giving them, providing them with the food. However that may look for them, He's providing for them. So why can't we allow God to provide for us? If God can show the love and care for the animals that He's created, He will reciprocate that same thing for His children. But we have to allow God to be our provider. And we need to have faith in Him that He will be the provider that He says He is. God says He's going to provide for us, but we need to trust in Him that He will do that. And I think this teaching really I think it really focuses on testing our faith, especially with finances. I feel like finances test our faith the most. At least I feel like, well, I'm not going to say the most, but I think finances are one of the things that test our faith the most. Because we have to learn to trust in God with what we have. We have to learn to trust in Him with what we have. Because, obviously I've mentioned you guys, I'm in college. I have winter break coming up. That's like 5.5 weeks long. I'm not going to be working, and I still have bills to pay. Still have car insurance, car payment, all these things, all these bills that I have. And, I brought it up to, my mom that I wanted to work. And, she was like, no, like, you don't need to work. Enjoy your break. Just, be at home. Stay at home. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about, money and all that. Don't worry about it. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I have all these bills. What do you mean? And she's like, don't worry about it. Because she knows that that's why I want to work. Well, and also I hate being home. I do not want to be home for those 5.5 weeks, but that's not the point. The point is, I have to be able to trust in God through my winter break, that He will provide for me when it comes to anything, whether that's paying bills, whatever. That is my time to have faith in Him and trust in Him that He will provide for me like He's been doing, whether I'm working or not. And, I started to realize, I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need to work. I have parents that are able to help me and able to provide for me, along with God, who's able to provide me with whatever it may be. As long as I go to Him and let Him know what's going on, even though He knows what's going on, sometimes it just hits different when we verbally tell God what it is we need, what it is that, we may have our worries about. Sometimes saying it verbally, it makes a difference. At least to me, it does. So that's something that, I'll be, kind of in a, not a situation, but that'll be something that I'll be dealing with, come winter break. Is just being able to trust in Him even more, and really being able to have that faith that He will continue to provide for me as if I was working. So, that was something that I was like, okay, now mind you, I haven't worked the past 2 winter breaks that I've been in college, but I also didn't really have bills like I do now. So I think that would definitely be a good time for me to really be able to lean on Him during those times, and not worry about, different things going on, or worrying about how a paycheck and all of that, but just being able to lean on Him during that time, and just trusting in Him and putting all my trust in Him. And that's why it's important for us to not allow our worries to dominate or take over our thoughts, because we don't want that negativity. We don't want to just be constantly worrying about money and all of these things, because it's not going to do us no good. Worrying all the time does us no good, but just bring us worries and anxiety and just at anything you can think of, because we're just so caught up in how much this paycheck is going to be, or what is this, how am I going to be able to pay for this, and just different things like that. God knows what we need, and He will always provide for us. He will always provide for us, because He knows what it is we need. God knows that I have bills to pay next month and I won't be working, but He's going to make a way for me, and He's going to continue to provide for me. As long as I don't let those worries and those thoughts take captive over my mind. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? As long as I'm not constantly allowing those thoughts to take over, God will continue to provide for me. And as long as I trust in Him and know that He will provide for me and have faith, then He will provide for me. That's why it's so important that no matter the circumstance and no matter the situation, we have to always have faith in Him. Because our faith and our trust, it means a lot to Him, knowing that we have faith in Him. Although it might seem like it, I don't see anything working. We have to be patient as well. We can't rush God's timing. His timing is the right timing, and our timing is not, and that's our problem. We want to rush God's timing because we're impatient, or we feel like now is the right time, but it's really not, and we don't realize that until God gives us what we need at the time that He says that it is, and then we're like, oh man, like this came right when I needed it. I'm telling you, God knows when to give us certain things. He knows, and obviously we're not gonna understand, but we just have to be able to just trust in Him and just be patient that He will provide for us, especially when it comes to finances. So I just encourage you guys, through your week, if that may be something that you're going through, with finances and just different things like that, because I know there's a lot of things going on right now, in the world with, people may not be getting certain benefits with money, or, whatever it may be. People may be losing their jobs, or whatever it is you may be going through. I just pray for you guys, and just hope that, during those times you guys are able to go to God and just pray to Him, and, ask Him to just be able to provide for you. And I guarantee you, if you go to Him, give your worries to Him, fully trust in Him, and have faith, He will provide for you. So I just encourage you. I just encourage anyone who may be, struggling with that, to just go to Him in those times and just pray to Him and tell Him what it is you need, and be patient. I know we always want things very quickly, but just be patient. We can't rush what God has in store for us. We can't rush what He's already planned for our lives. But we have to just be patient and just trust that He didn't, because God doesn't forget about us. I know, some of us may think, oh, He forgot about me. Why? He's not listening. What's going on? I promise you guys, He didn't forget about you. He's just waiting for that right time. So that's something that, I just encourage those of you who may be dealing with that or struggling with that, to just lean on Him during this time of your life, and this season of your life, and just have faith in Him, and just continue to trust. Allow your trust to build. Allow this time to be the time that you can build more in having trust in God, and just growing your faith and being able to have trust in Him in this time. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Hope you guys enjoy. I really enjoyed this teaching, and well, all the teachings in Matthew, actually. But I hope that you guys enjoyed these teachings in Matthew. And if you would like something else like this, once again, very open to suggestions. This was I really like this. It allowed me to, one, be able to, dig into one of the beginning books in the New Testament, and it allowed me to really, dig deep and really understand and be able to read more and learn more about these different teachings, because these teachings are things that we can apply to our everyday lives. So I really did enjoy this. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this teaching as well as the other teachings, because I really enjoyed them, and I hope that you guys learned something from it and were able to take something from it and, possibly apply it to your life. But yeah, I thank you guys for tuning in. Wait, I almost forgot our last shout out of the episode. So our shout out today is going to be from our followers on the Biblical Bees Facebook. If you guys do not know, I do have a Facebook account for Biblical Bees. All the social medias and everything I will have in the description. That way you guys are able to see that and follow, support, all that good stuff, because I do post updates on my social media about certain things, new episodes, if there's not going to be episodes, just different things like that. So I hope that you guys tune into those. But before we close out, we are going to do our shout out from our Facebook, from the Biblical Bees, and our shout out is going to be for Stacia Brown And it's funny because this is my mother. So shout out to Mom for listening, of course, for supporting, and yeah, all that good stuff. I'm sure she's going to be excited that she got a shout out on the Biblical Bees podcast. But yeah, thank you for the support. Thank you for buying my things to even do this. And yeah, um, so that's our shout out for from the Facebook, Stacia Brown. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in on this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.